In this channel, I try to bring the best mind in the world for an honest conversation. And my guest today, in my opinion, fits exactly this criteria. His name is Jeffries. He's a master hypnotist, NLP expert, but I think he's most known for his work on the speed seduction community. And one can say he almost invented the field. If you have ever seen the film Magnolia, so then Tom Cruise's character is based on Mr. Jeffries. And if you read Neil Strauss' The Game, or המשחק, this is a Hebrew version, so you know exactly who Ross Jeffries is. Now, if you have ever wondered what speed seduction is, this talk is for you. If you have ever been intimidated by beautiful or just normal women, this talk is for you. If you want to discuss the moral ramifications of these techniques, this talk is for you. And if you thought if these techniques can be also applied in other domains, this talk is definitely for you. So hi, Ross, and thank you so much for coming. How are you today?
מה נשמע? כל בסדר, חבר, כל בסדר.
Now, since you speak Hebrew, since you speak a little bit of Hebrew, and since in your latest book you say, okay, I want to thank my nephew Gidon and Ari, are you Jewish, yes?
Of course. You want me to pull it out and show you? Of course I'm
No. But have you ever been in Israel?
Twice I had the honor of being there, and the last time I was there, I gave a little seminar, and anyone who was active duty IDF got to come for free. So yes, I love Israel. It's a country that's both contradictory. It's a country that tries to live like any other Western hedonistic society. At the same time, there's sort of a split because Israelis also have to ignore that part that says you're constantly under threat of destruction and go about your normal lives. It's a very interesting psychology that I think doesn't exist in any other country.
You know, before I started the recording, Ross asked me, where do I live in Israel? And said, in a village named Ofim in the occupied territory. And he said, there are no occupied settlements in Israel. There are no Palestine people, just like there is
now
no...
Now you're going to get me hated.
Okay. But this is, by the way, I'm sorry I didn't shave, but in Sunday we have Tisha B'Av. This is the day the temple was destroyed. So Orthodox Jews don't shave like we are said for 3 weeks. But I think this talk is going to be much better. Now, there is Ross Jeffries. Now, there is Ross Jeffries, as I know you, and there is Paul Ross, which seems to be the kosher version of Ross Jeffries. Same techniques, different domains. Even your site name is Subtle Words That Sell. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, the real name is Ross Jeffries, and when you want to sell like seminars about selling and how to use subtle words, you don't want your name to be associated with...
Well, it's practical. It's not anything other than a practical matter. I once gave a seminar for the Orlando Women's Council of Realtors under the name Ross Jeffries, and some woman Googled me and freaked out when she saw now, ask me how, and that sort of thing, and bang babes, get a job in 5 minutes or your money back. And she kind of didn't take kindly to that. So I figured if I'm gonna go into larger fields,
this is my wife here,
businesses
and I think that you said you told a story in one of your seminars that you had once hit on a girl, and started all this all these seduction techniques, and she was really into it. And then a friend said, you are the guy who hypnotized women. I saw you on TV. And you said, no, it's not me. It's my brother.
I don't remember if that's the case, but when women say, oh, you're that Ross Jeffries guy, you're that player, I say, of course, I love playing with people who enjoy having nude adventures with me. And as you sit there and think about how you'd like to take on a magnificent new direction, now these are not word plays that will translate into Hebrew, I'm glad to be the person who might lead you into that.
What Ross means is there is like new direction, but if you say it fast enough, it's nude, which is nude, naked direction. So this is a word.
Nude direction, yes.
That you mean. Okay, so we need to start, I think, with speed seduction. Now, Neil Strauss, in his famous The Game, this is Hebrew version, did some big service or disservice, depending on your point of view, to the community. Now, many people encapsulate these techniques to be mean, to be vicious techniques, and there are like comedy and parody about speed seduction, all the pickup artists, about negging, about all those things. If I were to define speed seduction in a sentence, I would have said something like this: using hypnosis to manipulate women, or the longer version, it's a set of hypnotic or suggestion techniques that meant to influence women in subconscious level to experience different feelings and then connect these feelings to you. How far am I?
The second one, but you need to add the piece, such as they take actions that would naturally flow from those states. See, my orientation, one of the things I learned when I was very early into neurolinguistic programming is it's about process and states of consciousness, not pieces of behavior you want to get to people. I really took this on from studying some Milton Erickson, as Richard Bandler taught it to me. Milton Erickson was the father of modern hypnotherapy.
This is one of his books, Uncommon Therapy.
By Jay Haley.
Yes, great book.
Great book. There are other ones that are also very good I can recommend to you. But in any case, my recognition early on is, rather than trying to get behaviors from women, get a date, get a phone number, get a blowjob, whatever it is, what are the states of consciousness, the states of mind, the flows of feeling in their body, where they would naturally want to give me those behaviors? That's very much an Ericksonian approach. I thought, wait a minute, this is very cool. All well and good that you can apply it for different things, but why not apply it to fix this problem? And I like the word manipulation. You mentioned the word manipulation. Let's talk about that. I don't think manipulation is necessarily a bad thing. If you have a bad outcome in mind for the other person, yes, it is. But manipulation, if you look at the word from the Latin, it comes from the word to move with to move skillfully, to use the hand to move something skillfully.
I can manipulate cards.
Yeah, if you put out your thumb and your forefinger work in opposition to, yet cooperation with, to manipulate your world. That's why one of the reasons why we became a dominant species, because we have a thumb and forefinger that can work together. We manipulate our world. Manipulation has taken on a bad rap because oftentimes people associate it with lying, misrepresenting facts, pushing down on people's pain points, which I don't teach. And a mystery method does. Negging is making women feel insecure by cutting them down to size. So it's never been what I teach. I want to make sure we distinguish my work from mystery and the other people that came out of his.
Okay, so now you say so many important things. Now, I think the lion's share of my audience don't know about any of those things. They know maybe that there is a speed seduction and they can't really distinguish between you and what you do and what mystery does. So I want to take it very slowly, but I want to focus on one thing. And you said manipulation is not really, it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but I can take it to the extreme. And I say like date rape drug. That is very, very common nowadays in Israel, okay? That you put something in the woman drink. Rape drug. No. So it is also, we also consider this as manipulation, okay? Because you manipulate the woman.
That's not manipulation, excuse me, Roy. That's poisoning. That's literally an act of poisoning someone. That's not manipulation. Manipulation, I think, that's not manipulation. That's
okay. Very good. I think that this is a very important point to elaborate on.
Look, everything I do with women is consensual. They want to do these behaviors because I will say I am co-engineering with them. It is a co-engineering, a co-creation of the states of consciousness and the feelings they want to have. At any point, they can say, no, stop. And that's fine with me. I don't, look, in a sense, it's the guys who don't have choice and power with women who are more likely to do things out of desperation that are violative. When men do have choice and do have power and do have plenty of choices, they can say, okay, you're not interested. That's not a problem. Bye. Last two experiences I had with women, they both had me back at their place. They got very drunk and actually passed out. I left immediately as soon as because I don't want to be around that. It's gross. And second, it's not attractive to me to not have someone who consensually really wants to be
there. You know, when I also a magician mentalist, and part of what I do is hypnosis. Now, hypnosis is illegal, like entertainment hypnosis is illegal in Israel. Nevertheless, when you occasionally do it, it's a co-engineering, it's a game. The person is willing to participate, but in some point where the induction goes really, really deep, it starts to lose, I think, the control. And I take place when I do entertainment hypnosis, and you know it. And when we see like a very talented hypnotist, in some points, although the volunteer, the participant is willing to participate, okay? I'm not forcing him. In some point, I take the control because he willingly gives me the control of his body, of his mind. Would you agree that in entertainment hypnosis, this sometimes happen, or most of
the there's two things in there. So let's disambiguate them. One of my favorite words, disambiguate. First of all, you said willingly. Willingly. So if you look at classic hypnosis as being you are in my power, yes, come into my lair, I am Dracula. There's no willingness. There's no volunteerism, so to speak, to coin a phrase. But more importantly, Roy, I'd come back at you and say, well, what is hypnosis? Bandler and Grinder used to say, there's no such thing as hypnosis, and everything is hypnosis. When you fall in love with someone, that's largely an unconscious process. You may consciously have the realization, I'm in love with this person, but it largely happens. The process is unconscious as it goes on. So we need to pause and define our terms. As Voltaire said, one of my favorite philosophers, don't debate with me. If we're going to debate, we must first define our terms. So let's define our terms. What is hypnosis? I prefer to step aside from that term and think of trance. What is a trance? A trance can be defined as a mood that includes high focus and high suggestibility. I don't think of hypnosis in terms of you are in my power or count down to 5 and picture a beautiful lake or any of that shit. I view it as an altered state of consciousness that happens all the time anyway. And I'm going to make another point, then I'll shut up and I'll check it. I will check it, as we say in Hebrew, and let you go on with your next question. When a guy goes out on a date, a traditional date, and he picks a place with a beautiful setting, the atmosphere is beautiful, maybe there's a beautiful view, there's candlelight, he's not doing it so he could watch the woman shovel the pasta down her throat. He's doing it to set a mood, hoping that mood will put her in the state of mind where she wants to go home with him. So in that sense, speed seduction is just shortcutting it. It says, why take the chance and spend the money and roll the dice? Let's shortcut it, use the power of language to create these states and these moods, and let the chips fall where they may.
Okay. Now, the border between hypnosis and suggestion is really unclear, is really vague. And I think that what you said right now is absolutely correct. By the way, it was Milton Erickson who invented the all awakening hypnosis therapy, where you speak to someone and during the speech, you put him in an altered state where he's not sleeping. He doesn't feel he's going to sleep. There is a great book, My Voice Will Go With You, that demonstrates. This is a great book. Okay,
so let me challenge you. Let me bat a challenge back to you. You're a deeply believing Jew, an Orthodox Jew. You don't think that a lot of religion is trance induction? You don't think when you say the prayers and do the rituals, it puts you in a trance-like state, a different mood than your ordinary waking state when you're walking around doing secular things? Of course
it should. But many people will say that, you know, praying, if you see the word in Hebrew, להיתפלל, which is if you like open the word and unfold the word, it's very similar to the word concentration, going to my inner self. And this is one of the objectives of praying. But many people will say that there is a difference, and a big difference, when I'm doing it to me or doing it to someone else. And
it's still trance. When the cantor goes up on the bima, I know this stuff, and says the prayers, the whole point is that people will go into an altered state than their normal, ordinary waking state when you're doing secular.
Okay, I agree.
Bar, eating a burger, not a cheeseburger, but a burger, it puts you in an altered state. Religion depends on altered state. Doesn't mean it's not true. Doesn't mean it's not true, but it does depend on inducing altered states. Many people, have you ever heard of Terence McKenna? Of course you have.
Yes, Terence McKenna. I spoke with Rupert Chedlock on the show.
You spoke to whom?
Rupert Chedlock. He was a friend.
Okay, I know who Rupert is.
Yes.
Of course.
I had a great conversation with him.
They would probably give you the theory that Moses was chewing on some mushrooms when he saw the burning bush. This is just I'm challenging you back because this makes for a stimulating conversation.
Okay, now, since you are Ross Jeffries and you can manipulate me with words, I have my backup.
I'm opening your mind to a different way.
Okay, so I bring my wife to this conversation, to this interview. So my wife, please. This is Reli, my wife, and she's really
Manishma, Mote. I see you're practicing snoot. Very good. I like it.
What's that?
Snoot.
Snoot. You have to work on your Hebrew accent, Ross.
Hey, sorry, I'm an American.
And it's one of these words that I wouldn't imagine in 1,000 years you trying to pronounce. So
hey, I'm an epicurus. I know that much. I'm an epicurus.
Listen, okay. I have to tell you something. First of all, very important to me too. I've heard you speak a lot. I've met Roy when we were both not very religious at all, obviously, and we've changed. But I have to tell you something. As someone who's experienced your techniques,
this is why she's here.
Yeah, and the children too. But from Roy and from some of his friends, really quite the situations. Anyway, I have to tell you, when you give your beautiful speech about candlelight and the beach and all that, well, I have to make a distinction, because when a girl is in a beautiful restaurant and she sees the candles and she understands that the lights are dim and the music is mellow and everything is, to keep the vibes going, that's fine, but she can comprehend the situation. She knows what's going on. But when you try to...
Can she really?
Well, you know what? I can tell that you can already know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But I have to make the audience understand too. So she can with her senses comprehend something. Okay? And maybe her mother once told her, watch out for these fancy restaurants and candlelight. It all aims for a certain point. But when you push her out of her comfort zone, when you tilt her, when you try to play with her emotions and with her decision making in a subtle way. It's true. It's not like a rape drug. It's true. It's very much different. But however, it is an experience, and I'm speaking as from the recipient side of the experience multiple times, that the morning after, okay, she thinks back and she's like, you know what, I'm really not sure I'm that into that guy. It's just I don't really know why I chose these things, and it can happen for a multitude of reasons. Okay, not just when you speed seduct or seduce or whatever. It can be, his aftershave. It can be a lot of things that she can't understand immediately or in the morning after, but it's different. These words, these phrases, these tactics, it's different. She's not accustomed to these things. She doesn't know what to watch out for. It's different and it's psychological, and you're very much you're on a high ground, much higher ground than she is. You know
Are
the
we?
secret. Yes. No. You're not
agree.
Always. No, usually
I don't agree.
No. I don't think that all men. No. I don't think that men have the higher ground at all. When it comes to dating, it's us. We're the selective ones. We have to be the selective.
Why I created it. One of the reasons why I created it.
So you're the male feminist.
No.
You think you got the short end of the stick,
That's
and you try to put the equilibrium back into place.
This is complete Meshuggah talk. Listen, I don't think it's being feminist. I think it's just leveling the playing field for men.
That's what I'm saying.
I used to say, for women, getting laid is a choice. For men, getting laid is a chore. Unless you have high social status, you're really good looking, you have a lot of money. So I thought, no way. Why should I settle for someone who's not attractive, for someone I don't like as a person, just because I'm not gifted with daddy's bank account or good genetics or the rest of it? I thought, how can I use my genius and my intelligence and the gifts that I do have and these skill sets that I devoted myself to learning and mastering to even the playing field? But even with speed seduction, we're still just on an even playing field.
You'll never be. You shouldn't be. We have to be the selective ones. This is humanity.
I'm violating those laws. I'm saying I'm coming along and so turning things on the head that I'm actually violating those laws of nature. This is so powerful. I don't know how you say sorcerer or magician in Hebrew, but I take that on. I am a sorcerer, and I don't use potions, but I use the sorcery of language. Language structures consciousness, shapes decisions, drives behavior. Let's look at Torah. Let's look at Tanakh. Did God wish the world into existence? No. He spoke the world into existence. Did he not? He said, let there be light. He could have wished it. I'm an atheist, by the way. I'm just talking your language. God could have wished the world into existence. He didn't. He spoke he said, let us form man in our image from the dust of the ground. He spoke. Words are magic. Words have power. I'm just saying, all right, let's use it. Even the playing field, give men a fighting chance, both with their male competitors who are more naturally attractive and with the sexual choice that women have as being the selectors. No, I'm saying to men, I can put you in the driver's seat. You can be the selective one. That's the outrageous claim and the outrageous reality of speed seduction. And finally, look at what resulted in. You have a beautiful mishpacha because of my genius. So there you go.
Thank you. But okay, so I'm so happy we had this little talk. Because this is exactly what I was afraid of. See, nature, I'm speaking your language because you don't believe in God. So I'm saying nature.
Not in the way you would conceptualize it.
I believe me, the God that you don't believe in, I don't either. Okay. Good. We have a good God. It's the Hebrew one.
We'll have another discussion about it.
You should check it out. Anyway, so when God created, when nature, the evolution, whatever, made us the selective gender, it was for a good reason. Okay. And when you try to flip the dice, to roll the dice in a different way, you sabotage human race, because there's a reason. Human race. You sabotage human race.
Thank you.
Well, this is
this
is a big accusation.
No accusation, but I'm willing to defend it, because there is a reason why the good-looking guys, the tall guys, the rich guys, you say daddy's money, because I can sense the envy there. Maybe it's their money, not just daddy's money. Maybe. Could be. If it's their money, maybe they should get all the good girls, all the hot girls.
I don't know that hotness, I don't know that money necessarily. So you're saying money entitles men to women's bodies?
I don't. I just say that aptitude to win the game of life.
I agree.
Good genes.
Here's what you're missing.
Wait. Good genes manifest themselves through good brains, good looks. And girls are the selective gender, and they make sure that the next generation only proceeds with the better genes. And all the mediocre.
So many unattractive people in the world.
I know.
If we only select good-looking men who are successful,
we won't. Only the attractive, beautiful girls. I don't know. It's not just the beautiful girls. It's the good quality.
If what you were saying was true, what you're saying is observationally incorrect. Because if it were true, the ugly people would be bred out of existence, and the lazy people would be bred out of existence.
Because you have it upside down, because you're not God and you cannot understand God's ways. And
I don't believe in God, and I don't think there is such a thing as God's way.
Evolution and nature.
I don't think there's any such thing as God's way any more than there are Pippi Longstockings or Narnia. I think it's a myth.
Okay, have it your way. It's okay. What? He wrote something down.
Roy, you're losing this interview. Your wife is...
No. But okay. I just have to say one thing.
Get to the point.
We need all sorts of people here, okay? The world cannot exist with very successful, driven people, because they'll eat each other and nothing will be left. There's a grand scheme to all of this, and it's a nice equilibrium. And when you try to mess it because you think you're smarter than God, than nature,
I don't think I'm smarter than nature. I think... Look, here's where you're not getting about my work, where you're understanding my work is incomplete. The guys who are the most successful with it have to develop emotional intelligence along with my work. Okay. What you're missing is half of my work is healing. This is what Neil Strauss missed in the book.
I know.
Well, half of my work is as a healer, and to get guys to develop emotional intelligence. If you just parrot what I'm doing, you won't have the success of someone who develops EQ. And EQ, emotional intelligence, is naturally attractive because it's a survival trait. So along with, you're smirking as if I'm telling you Bubba mice, but I'm not.
I'm agreeing with you. No, my smirk is agreeing with you.
By the way, people who don't speak Hebrew or Yiddish are going to be totally lost. You're going to have to put liner notes that describe what all these terms mean. So what I'm saying is, to get really good at what I'm doing, you have to undergo some transformational healing, which is half of my work. And as a result of that, you develop genuine emotional intelligence.
Amen.
You can't be successful at what I'm doing on a high level unless you become emotionally intelligent and you heal from trauma. And a huge part of Neil's book, he left out everything I do as a healer and everything I do as someone who can heal trauma and do change work. He left it out, and that's a disservice.
Okay. So
thank you for
Baruch Hashem and good Tisha B'Av, or whatever you call it to you. Chag Sameach. That's not a holiday.
And again, I think that you both agreed on the fact that your techniques are extremely powerful. They are so powerful. But what you said right now is very important. One cannot just recite your roller coaster pattern or Discovery Channel pattern, which, by the way, is a great pattern, and it will work like, yes, I know, I'm quite familiar with your work. I told you, I'm a big fan. So one cannot just recite it if it doesn't have this correct attitude. And you said in one of your latest seminars, you said, people say to you, listen, but in 20 years ago, in this seminar, in page this, on this seminar, you said about this pattern like this, and just as I don't remember, how many times did you actually try this pattern? And he said, none, zero. And then you said, okay, I want to give you the state of mind that will take certainty out of your life and you will do things without being certain. Many people, especially men who are intimidated of women, and again, Orthodox men, because in Orthodox education system, we separate men from women, boys from girls. So when sometimes it's very hard for a man, for an adolescent, for a young man to approach women. No beautiful women, just normal women, okay? So what you said is extremely powerful. And I want to focus with you on one thing from the first page in your notebooks, that love doesn't exist. Love, lust doesn't exist. And you say it doesn't exist like the glass exists. It's a different kind of existence. Could you please elaborate on this subject? Because I think this is the core of many, many things that you do.
I didn't say that people don't have the experience of love. I didn't say people don't have the experience of lust. What I'm saying is it's not a thing like this pen or this smartphone. It is a process that people undergo. They undergo it neurochemically, they undergo it biologically, they undergo it through unconsciously, through matching that person with the things that they value. It is not a thing, it is a process. And if you really want to get zen about this, and I want to suggest you interview this guy, my teacher, Shinzen Young. Shinzen is the single most brilliant human being I've ever met and the best teacher I've ever met, more than Richard Bandler even. Bandler's a world-class genius. Through the experience of meditation, I've really got not just words, the firsthand direct experience of all of the world being a process, a process that arises and disappears and arises and disappears from moment to moment. So my understanding started with NLP and then it deepened through my meditation practice with Shinzen. It was the natural progression. So what I mean is, and this is again a core aspect of NLP and why I think Richard Bandler took to me as and really liked me as a person and a student. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, looks for process. We want to steer away from what is known as nominalizations. Nominalization occurs when we take a verb, an action, an activity, and we turn it into a thing.
Could you give me an example?
Yes. Intelligence. That person has lots of intelligence. So we make it a thing instead of saying that person thinks in ways that I identify as being intelligent.
You know, I had a talk with Richard Nisbet. He spoke about he had this great book, The Person and the Situation. So we associate different traits with personality and not with situations. So we can say this is a very angry man, but we don't say he behaves in a way that is anger. So yes, right. I think that
and I also say there's no such thing as attraction. Attraction is not a thing. Attraction is not a thing. It is an activity, a process that arises and vanishes, expands and contracts in a woman's neurology, in her cognition, in what she's visualizing, same for men. So as soon as we can make contact, if we can't make contact with the process, we have no ability to change it. Let me unpack that. I'll give you a specific. Oftentimes my students will come to me and say, I have approach anxiety. I say, really, where is that? Is it in your ass? Is it in your heart? Is that like your kidneys? And they say, no, I just feel scared. I said, okay, that's really brilliant. I don't know how to do that. I'm playing you in a movie. I'm a method actor. I need to get into your skin and do it your way. How do I make myself undergo the experience of scaring myself? And then I find out the specific structure and then I spoil it by putting something in there that shouldn't belong. But the bottom line is both through NLP and on a much deeper level, on the broadest context level, through how I walk through the world. My meditation practice has really shown me the value of experience things, not just conceptualizing, but experiencing the world as an ever vanishing and ever arising process. You really need to interview Shinzen. He's the Einstein of meditation. I know you have a drawing of Einstein back there. It is like speaking to Albert Einstein.
By the way, it's not Einstein. If you can see,
Einstein.
No,
Einstein.
It is the Jewish
It's Theodore Herzl.
No. The Jewish Yiddish author Shalom Aleichem.
Oh, really? It looks like, oh, okay. From the blurred view, it looks like
okay. So again, if a guy comes back from a date and I ask him, okay, how was the date? And say, there wasn't a chemistry there. So Ross will tell him, no, it's not that chemistry is either here or not here, either exist or don't exist. It's a thing. It's not a thing. It's a process, and you need to build this process. Therefore,
engineer it, if I can.
You said co-engineer in the beginning of our talk.
Yes.
So what I need to do, and I don't have your specific words, but I cited them so many times, instead of focusing on many different things, should I pay the bill? Should I order? Should I give her flowers? Should all the things that we usually, focus on when dating with girls, you said, no, your focus should only be, how do I get her to the correct mental states that creates last chemistry attraction, and then how do I connect those feelings to me? And what you said in the beginning when I defined speed seduction, and this is again with call to an action. Am I correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, and this is fascinating because this is completely different. This is completely different from everything that we are taught about women, because you go in a different road, in the road less traveled. Yes.
I got this influence from my ima, from my mother, was a great teacher to me. I'm not being funny here. Every Jewish boy loves his mommy. But my ima, Sylvia, a blessed memory, when I was a little kid, told me, Paul, which is actually Pesach is my Hebrew name. She called me Paul.
Oh, now I know. Pesach, Jeffries. But I think was Jeffries.
Real fat. Pesach, you're fat. Anyway, I'm having fun, Landsman. I'm having fun. That's a Yiddish term. Do you speak any Yiddish?
A bit.
A bit. All right. Anyway, my mom said, Paul, the vast majority of the world is stupid. If the world is doing one thing, do the opposite. And then she also told me something else. She said, I didn't have my children for me. I had my children for the world. You're put here for a reason. And she told me, you're going to be an iconoclast when you grow up. She shook her finger at me when I was 6 years old. I'll never forget. If you don't change your ways, you're going to be an iconoclast. I said, what's that? She said, someone who goes around knocking over other people's sacred ideas and idols and really getting them angry. I thought, yes, mommy, I want to grow up to be that. How do I grow up to be that? And in my household, I have 5 siblings. One has passed on. We were encouraged to think anything. We were never told, shut up, you're stupid. If I said it to get attention at the dinner table, because I was second to the youngest, I would say outrageous things. I would say, Mom, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. And rather than punishing me, she'd say, well, what do Christians believe? I'd say, I don't know. She'd say, okay, I want a book report tomorrow at this time. Use the encyclopedias, because didn't have a lot of money, but we always had money for books. It's a Jewish thing, as you know. Books are sacred. Learning is sacred. And if I did it right, I would get a silver dollar. If I didn't get it right, the TV or some punishment would be thrown my way. And so my mother encouraged me to take any idea to its furthest end logically, to be a contrarian in my thinking, and to enjoy pissing people off with that skill. And both my parents were very, very bright, and they encouraged learning and scholar. My father was a very learned man, had degrees in multiple disciplines. And I give credit, with a different set of parents, I could not come up with this. Couldn't have done
it. God bless their memory. I cannot say anything more.
Blessed memory. Yes, they were wonderful people. My father was a war hero. He fought the Nazis. He was a combat medic, couldn't carry a gun, was wounded in battle of the Hurtgen Forest. I have his medals in the other room. And so my father...
By the way, who is this guy in the picture, on the picture?
It's Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise from Magnolia. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say that I want to encapsulate the get her to the correct state and connect you there to an Orthodox youth, to an Orthodox young man, but I don't want to expose him to the roller coaster pattern. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It just doesn't
I'm sorry,
fit.
I didn't understand your question. Say it again here.
So let's say that I want to encapsulate. I want to take your book, Ken, and I want to take your book and get just the kosher version of your book, okay? I don't want to do the roller coaster, the Discovery Channel pattern about roller coasters and everything. How can I teach ultra-Orthodox men when dating women, what does it mean to be in the mood or to be in the focus of how to change the state, the mental state of the girl? What can I do?
You should ask this. It's funny you should ask this because I did a seminar in New York maybe a decade ago, 15 years ago, whatever it was. And I had two Orthodox former religious guys. They were both from very, very bizarre sects of Orthodox Judaism. They both followed rabbis, but tiny group of followers, and each rabbi thought the other one was a nut. And they were very, very restricted. They couldn't go into a restaurant or look at a menu. It was just craziness, absolute tohu vavohu. Is that right?
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, it means chaos. For all you non-Hebrew, you really need to put a glossary, a list of words, or they won't understand.
Chaos.
You really need to. So I had to deal with them and teach them how to get past, first and foremost, get past their need for absolute certainty. And again, I don't mean to be insulting, but Orthodoxy, in my view, one of the needs it fulfills is certainty. To have a certain way of doing things, to be certain that things happen in a certain way.
Definitely. You are absolutely correct. So I sometimes distinguish between Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox, but you are absolutely correct. Certainty is a major point in the life of an Orthodox and even way more an ultra-Orthodox Jew. Absolutely correct.
And this would be crushing for my psyche. I need uncertainty. I thrive on chaos and uncertainty. So the first thing I needed to do is show them some ways to get comfortable with uncertainty. Get comfortable with it, first to accept it, then to get comfortable with it, and then to actually enjoy it. That was a transformational process that required doing a lot of work with them during that weekend and then follow-up work with them. Because until you can enter that kind of psychological state, you can't do shit with what I teach. So that's the first thing. Before we go back to what they would say, we have to first decondition that need for certainty. And that's going to conflict with the entire, one of the big benefits of being, it's going to bleed over and say, wait a minute, if I can be uncertain about this, and that maybe I can start to be skeptical and start questioning my orthodoxy. Now, they were ready because they had it. One of the guys said, you know what? I was so browbeaten by the rabbi. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get on a train, because it was in New York, and I'm going to look at a woman who's revealing herself and see what happens. And he thought nothing bad happened. And then he said, I'm going to try some, it sounds like a dirty joke, but it's true. He said, I'm going to eat a bite of bacon. And nothing happened to him. He thought, okay, maybe this is a house of cards, let's see. But he was still terrified at the same time. So I had to work with them on their love of certainty. And this, I don't think it's possible if you can't remain ultra-Orthodox and give up that need.
So profound. This is so profound. Wow.
And I think this is a role of any kind of, as a person who loves creativity and chaos and uncertainty, this is why I am repulsed by any kind of orthodoxy, whether it's Orthodox atheism, which says it's absolutely not possible there could be a God. We know it's not possible.
Richard Dawkins' school of thought.
Dawkins, I'm a non-material. I'm not a materialist. I have, from direct experience, seen that there are other things going on.
You study Buddhism. You cannot be materialist.
Correct. But in any case, restrained from the point. I don't think I can help those people because giving up certainty would challenge.
Okay. You're absolutely correct. But can you at least give me one technique to embrace uncertainty, which is unrelated to girls? Okay, which is just give me one technique. How do I embrace and then feel comfortable and then enjoy? Not related to girls. Okay.
Yes. It's a meditation practice. Again, taught to me by my teacher, Shinzen, who's a Jewish guy, by the way. There's a lot of, we call them Jew Buddhists in the United States, Jewish Buddhists. They're born Jewish, but they become Buddhist. And Shinzen teaches a style of meditation called Vipassana. And with Vipassana, we bring mindfulness, which is sensory clarity and focus, and equanimity, meaning we don't interfere with the flow of process. We let it be there. And we allow the emotions to arise, and we just track them. We follow where they are, and we notice how they expand, how they contract, how they arise, how they appear, how they disappear. So I teach an exercise. I actually will teach guys to go up to women and deliberately say something that makes them feel ashamed and track the shame rather than buy into the story around it or rather than tightening around it. Just be present with it and notice how it changes. I have them say, same or changing, same or changing. I'm cooking with Shinzen's ingredients here. I learned this all from Shinzen. Till eventually they notice after a while, when they bring acceptance to it, it just breaks up into a flow of energy and it goes away. I'm teaching them through the direct experience that if they don't interfere with it and they don't feed it, there's a beautiful third choice. You don't interfere with it and you don't feed it with stories or tightening around it. It's a beautiful third choice that will enable you to be present with it and it no longer blocks you. And here's the important point. This is Shinzen's words, not mine. It no longer distorts your perception and drives your behavior. And this is his work. You need to interview him. I got this from him. And this is part of my point that I'm a healer and a change worker as much as I am a seductionist. You cannot, on some level, do my work successfully without being transformed as a human. And I think a more flexible way.
So again, there are so many things to take, if I want you to squeeze the kosher things or the kosher parts from your work, because again, when I look at this book, okay, and it's how to get women into bed, okay, it still away deviates many people from reading this book because no, it's not for me. Good. But again, in this book, we have many good techniques, many profound philosophy, which is very important.
I want to drive people away. You need to understand something. I've had many great mentors and teachers, Richard Bandler, Shinzen, but one of my great mentors, without whom there'd be no speed seduction business. Without Bandler and Erickson, there wouldn't have been. But there's a third name that never comes up. I'm going to reveal that name. His name is Gary Halbert, Halbert. Gary Halbert was a brilliant copywriter. He wrote ads. One of the best, arguably, who ever lived, if not the best. I learned from Gary how to be polarizing, how to offend. His whole thing is, if you want to sell to everyone, you'll sell to no one. So learn to be polarizing and outrageous. And he taught me two things, Roy. Yeah. One thing, he taught me a lot, but one of the big lessons he taught me, you're Googling him, I can see.
Yes, no one has time to understand your pathetic subtlety.
Pathetic subtlety, that's right. Why, you just saw me say that, or you saw him say that?
No, it's in your introduction to Speed Seduction. Gary Halbert, who taught me the art of copywriting, no one has time to understand your pathetic subtlety.
That's right.
He told me. Right. He was right. Okay? I can't prepare, Ross.
Yeah. And also he said, people will not stand to be bored in print. You have to get their attention immediately. And the best way I knew to do it was to be polarizing.
And this Gary did, by the way.
Gary did a thing where he put an ad, a full-page ad in the Los Angeles Times that was designed to offend women who are feminists who wouldn't agree with his view of life. And he said something like, successful entrepreneur seeks generous, beautiful woman with generous breasts and something attitude to have fun and get down and blah, blah, blah. And he knew he would offend tremendous amounts of people. But he said, these are his words, not mine. I didn't care about offending the dogs. I was interested in attracting the foxes. I'm not saying women are dogs. This is him. And I don't think he meant it in that way. But the whole point of saying things like, you don't get laid, I don't get paid, is to grab attention immediately.
And again, I want to go back to one of your, what you said just before, don't interfere and don't feed, okay? Yeah. Just be in the process, be in the right and now. You know, I think in Buddhism, they distinguish between I'm in pain and I have a feeling of pain, okay? And when you are in pain, your entire being is in pain. But if you can just go out from this pain and say, okay, I just feel in pain, because in Hebrew it's much more clear. Yesh li kaev, I have pain, and koev li. My total being is in pain.
Not quite in Buddhism. Buddhism makes, I got this from Shinzen. It blew my mind when I first read his first book, which is Breakthrough Pain. Buddhism makes a distinction between suffering and pain. Pain is the actual experience going on. Suffering is the attachment and the aversion we have around it. The gripping around it, the aversion.
Dukkha.
Dukkha is the word. D-U-K-H-A, dukkha. Yes. So there's a distinction between pain and suffering. It's amazing that a Get Laid artist is talking to you about deep Buddhist concepts, but
because I told you, you are a philosopher, and your work sits on the ground of a very solid and profound philosophy. And by the way, this is why it works. This is why it works, because it aims to the heart of human being. And you know what you said was extremely right. Words are immensely powerful, and God created the world with words. This is very,
and if
very
you're a Christian. Cool. If you're a Christian, which I certainly am not, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I think it's nonsense, but again, the power of words is every word. And look definitely at the word grammar. In English, the word grammar comes from the Old English word grimmery. A grimmery was a book of spells, a book that would allow you to call forth. Look at this. Here's one you never thought of. When Moses first encounters God, and God says, I want you to go to Pharaoh, and I want you to tell him, let my people go, blah, blah, blah. Moses does something very clever. He says, who should I say sent me? Which is a clever way to try to get God to tell him his name. He doesn't say, well, what's your name? He says, may I ask who's calling, please? Who should I say sent me?
It's like quoting. It's like quoting.
Exactly. But in magic, the mystical traditions, Kabbalah, whatever, if you know the name of a demon, not saying God is a demon, you can command it. You take control of it.
Yes.
So I think that was Moses' clever way of trying to go, okay, I can pull a fast one. Let's see if I know the name of this God, so I can therefore use it and entrap him. But God was having none of it. He simply said, my name is I will be who I will be, you schmuck. Now get the fuck out of here. See, I got that right. It's not I am that I am. It's I will be who I will be. Now get the fuck out of here and deliver the message.
By the way, I teach Guide for the Perplexed by Maimonides. And in my last lesson, which is on YouTube, by the way, we talked about this very verse. So we elaborated on this verse and what Maimonides thought about this verse. Now, up until now, you mentioned the name Shinzen, yes?
Shinzen Young.
Shinzen Young so many times, but it's very surprising to me. I thought that the name Richard Bandler will be mentioned much more. So with your permission,
don't get me wrong, Bandler, without Bandler's work, I wouldn't be here.
Yes, you met. Okay, so my question is, you met Bandler, and Bandler told you, okay, you take those techniques and make and do whatever you want to do with them. And before the interview started, I told you that, in my opinion, what you did to the theory of NLP, which basically like the summary of the work of Erickson and Virginia Satir and Franz Phillips, let's take what works, and you took the pencil that's called NLP and you sharpened the pencil over and over again. very intelligently, very viciously, and you practice and sharpen and perfect these techniques to be so powerful, almost no one can resist, because you understood what lies underneath. And I think that you understand what lies beneath more than any other speed seducer, pickup artist. So could you please elaborate on your first encounter or your encounter with Richard Bandler?
Yes. There's an interesting story about, I'll tell you this story, and very few people know this story. It's a little elaborate, so follow along with me. My first encounter with Richard, well, and it's an interesting story. I had a friend, Glenn, and Glenn said, I've been into this NLP stuff. And I said, NLP, that's that Tony Robbins shit. Don't bother me with it. He said, no, you can meet Richard Bandler. He's doing a stage hypnosis show as part of his training for fun that night in the evening. He's just for the shits and giggles going to do a stage hypnosis show. You should come and watch. Well, Richard was doing the show with another hypnotist, doesn't matter his name, and I volunteered to be on stage. And the other hypnotist said, every time Richard Bandler mentions the name Manuel Noriega, who's the dictator of Nicaragua at the time, you see it's really dating the story, you're going to jump up and call him an asshole, which I did. And Richard laughed and took a liking to it. Now, here's the part I forgot and didn't consciously remember till decades later. Here's the story, and it's a true story. Many years later, Rolling Stone did a feature article on me. I can grab it. Give me a second.
This is one of my most interesting talks ever.
Rolling Stone magazine did a feature story on me, the Sultan of Swing. And the author of the story, the writer of the story, Eric, said to me, I would like to interview Richard Bandler. I said, Richard doesn't talk to reporters. He said, I write for Rolling Stone. He'll talk to me. So I gave him his office number. He called Richard, then he called me back. And he said, this Bandler guy, all he did was ramble and tell me stories, and I fell asleep and don't remember really much of what he said. Richard hypnotized him, of course. He said, who else can I talk to? I said, talk to his training partner, John Laval, because John had been on stage with me multiple times. We did trainings together, not NLP, but other stuff. So he called John Laval, and then he called me back. He said, John told me an interesting story. And the reporter asked me, did you go to a stage hypnosis show with Richard around 1987 in San Diego? I said, yes. He said, did a hypnotist by the name of Don Wolf hypnotize you to call Richard an asshole? I said, yes, he did. He said, do you remember after the show, Richard took you backstage, sat you on a stool and hypnotized you? I said, no.
Oh, wow.
John Laval told me, John Laval is Richard's current has been his partner, John and Kathleen, lovely people I've had on my podcast. John told me that Richard hypnotized you, put you deep in a trance, and said, you're going to do great things with NLP. You'll be able to take it a completely, no pun intended, new direction and do revolutionary things with it. And then he gave me amnesia for it. And I had 20 years of amnesia. 1989, 10 years. And once he told me the story, the whole memory came back. I called John Laval. I said, well, I don't believe He said, Ross, the boss has had his eye on you for over a decade. He approves of what you're doing. Watch how your career takes off now. And it really took off.
And your career took off from the moment of the trance, of the Richard Bandler trance?
Well, that's when I started creating Speed Seduction. But
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, this is a great story.
It's true. It's a true story. So one of the reasons I'm so good at what I do as a hypnotist is I'm a great subject. I'm very, very profound trance subject. And I love doing it. I love experiencing it.
Okay, so wow, this is a great story. What do we need to do, or what are the main points of NLP that you got into the world of speed seduction? Now, one point is, of course, the map is not the territory, which is very important. But I think that there is much more profound point, and this is that words can shape your neuro, because NLP stands for neuro-linguistic programming. So you can program the neuro by language. This is basically
even more than that. I
Okay, so
can't
please,
prove this.
please elaborate on what you took from the science of NLP. You know, I have many NLP books, okay? NLP is the new technology of achievement, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, the map is not the territory and anchoring, blah, blah, blah. But when I read Speed Seduction, when I read your book, basically it's the same content, but wrapped in a very different, straightforward, in-your-face techniques. And
I got that from another.
Important.
Well, I got that influence from another guy by the name of John LaTourette, who I don't know what happened to him. He called it speed hitting. I got the name Speed Seduction from speed hitting. John LaTourette would teach you to hit someone in 20 times in like 10 seconds. And John was street fighting, no bullshit. Let's get this done. Strip away the theory. Just do what works in a street fight kind of thing. So be that as it may, the major understandings I got about NLP is process. Look for process, not things. Avoid nominalization and look for process. Second, language affects states of consciousness. You can structure states of consciousness with language. Third thing is look at states of consciousness first before you look at behaviors. What states of consciousness do you want people in to get those behaviors? The next thing I learned is talent can be extracted. And one of the things Richard said that really struck me is he's lazy. He wants to, when he copies someone's talent, one of his things he did is to try to leave out as much as possible and still get the result.
Again? Richard is very lazy, or he told you?
He said about himself, I don't want to misquote him. Maybe the word is efficient. When Richard and John would model someone like Milton Erickson, they would progressively remove parts of what they saw him do to see if they could still get the same result, because they didn't want to be redundant and do too much work. So I thought that's really clever. How can I do that with NLP itself? How can I turn that view of let's take away everything as much as I can and still get the result? So I did that with NLP. Look, Roy, I would probably flunk. If you gave me an NLP test, a definition test, and said, what does this mean? What does this mean? I would get a C-. But I could out NLP 99% of the people who are in the trainings and probably about 75% of the people who do the trainings. Because again,
by the way, just like in Speed Seduction, I had two great friends, two very good friends. One started using your techniques and he got really, really good. And one didn't know anything about your techniques. He just was like a natural born. And they, go into pubs and doing bets on who gets the women first. And they were pretty good. But one just couldn't do anything without your techniques. And one didn't know anything about your techniques, and they were roughly the same stage, because some people are natural borns, and many people
or they have good models. Or Roy, they have good models. They have a big brother or a best friend or a father or an uncle who's just naturally good at doing this shit.
Because I think that many people who take your seminars don't get your results, even not close to your results. And again, in one of your latest seminars, you said that there are people who watch all your videos, all your seminar, and you have video from 1998 with a Palo Alto in San Diego, like in a old VHS format, okay? That you are in the business for a long time. And and I know that there are many people who have watched all of your material and didn't get a fraction of your results.
No. And this is because I've said there are major errors these guys make. Their operation, I like to deal, because so many of them are into software engineering. I speak their language. I say, look, you guys want better application programs. An application would be, how do I get the girl to give me a blowjob? How do I get a date? But you need to fix your operating system. Here's your operating system errors. Number one, your proportion of action to thinking is way off. For every one element, 1 point of action, you have 10,000 points of just thinking it through and running in your head. The second operating system is you think if you just memorize something, it'll give you skills in the real world. And the third operating system is in order to learn from your mistakes, you dwell on them and you program them right back in. You have a shitty learning strategy. It's not a confidence issue or an attractiveness issue. It's a learning strategy issue, because your way of learning from a mistake is to dwell on it, which just programs it back in. And when I say that, I get a profound response. Say, oh my fucking God, you're right. I said, so let's fix your operating system before we give you applications like the blowjob pattern, Discovery Channel, how to walk up and start a conversation. This is what's missing in the work of all the community.
And one can get to these conclusions, to these results, without being one-on-one private with Ross Jeffries, just by reading your book. Can someone transform his operating system, in your opinion?
You would probably need to get work with me, and I do have a group coaching program, but if you really want to transform, and I'm not cheap, but if you want to find out, we'll put the information in here. I'm the most expensive trainer you'll ever have, but I'm the only one who can get you the results. So it's not paying me, it's buying your life.
Okay, but again, what's the...
I've been able to do it in live seminars.
What's the meaning of your book? Because again, many people who got into the pickup artist community, and again, there is a lot in the pickup artist community, but many people said, okay, it's so right, okay, but I can't make myself to do the first move. I need someone with me. I read
that. I don't do. If you want me to go out to the field with you, actually stand there, you're gonna have to pay me
much more,
$10,000 cash, just USD, for an evening. It's a pain in the ass to do. I have a story. It's a pain in the ass to do. I can tell you stories.
Oh, okay, but let's go to the moral ramification. Now, in your book, it's not my book. In your book, you call relationship.
I've written more than one.
Yeah. But okay, where is the relationship? You call relationship
Real-hate-shun-ships. That's designed to get attention and to get people's ears to perk up so they listen to me and don't ignore me.
Yes.
Here's what I mean by a real hate-shun-ship.
Just let me just take it from the book, okay? So with your permission, I will start. Okay, disclaimer. Speed seduction may contain viewpoints that may be considered controversial by certain audiences. It is intended as powerful guide for self-respecting, intelligent men who are looking to avoid from the real-hate-shun-ships by default, and instead claim the happiness that they deserve. This is your words, okay?
Yeah. You're missing a word. It says real-hate-shun-ship by default.
Yes.
You left out those two words.
So what is real-hate-shun-ship by default? What is the by default?
It means that the guy has no methodology for attracting women, no methodology for consistently, predictably, reliably having a flow of women who he can choose from. And instead, he settles for accidental attractions. He accidentally finds a woman who just happens to be attracted to him. He's not really that into her. She bugs the shit out of him in many ways, but he stays because he's afraid that he'll be alone and never find anyone else, or never find anyone who really satisfies him. That's what I mean by a real hate-shun-ship. It's a trope I created to get attention. And really, this is another talent.
This is great, but this is really powerful, because again, when you read the Secret of Speed Seduction, and I've read it, I think, more than once, this is a great book, but you are not in the state of mind of relationship. You are in a different, altered state of mind of, okay, how do I do it? How do I alter the state of the girl I'm dating with? And my question is, when you have your girl using those powerful techniques, do you think that you can go or just in long-term relationship? Because many people do want long-term relationship. How do you convert from this, I'm not into the real hate-shun-ship paradigm or state of mind, to, yes, I want a long, committed, monogamous, if you want, relationship? How do you make the shift?
It's a fair question. Let me preface my answer by saying something. If you cannot create that attraction predictably, you're not going to get a one-night stand. You're not going to get a few months. You're not going to get a long-term relationship. You're just going to be in the friend zone. So what I teach is necessary to even get to a relationship. But the question then is to develop a relationship, whatever that means. There's no such thing as a relationship. There is only the process of relating in a way where each person grows progressively more fulfilled and helps the other person become a better person, however you want to define it. That is a matter of matching each other's values to see, do you have values that you share in common? Do you have a vision that you share in common? Are you sufficiently psychologically stable and healed of your trauma to have something that's healthy? Now, I can't teach anyone how to create a vision that's in common, or I can teach you how to elicit values and to find out from values what are the other person's rules, so I can help you better define who you're looking for. But I can't, you can't get juice from a stone, and sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So my answer is, I can give people the self-awareness to look to ask themselves the question, what are my values? What's my vision? I can teach them that, but I can't guarantee that the person they attract is going to share that vision or those values. I can only say, if you're going to go long term, my experience in life has said, find someone who matches those. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to be evasive with the answer.
No. I think, but okay. But you said, your point is, let me recite you. You said, listen, my techniques will get you one night stand. And if you don't have this by default method, you won't get it. Just a second. Okay, but if you want a long-term relationship with my techniques, I cannot promise you that the girls that you are into in a pub will be correlate with your values and your so right. you need to pray, you need to seek a lot for it.
Pray.
Yeah,
I didn't say pray.
No, because getting the right girl to settle on with, to have a happy marriage, to have children, this is a profound question. And many times in the pickup artist community, in the speed seduction community, we don't hear those kinds of discussions.
Don't conflate those. Please don't conflate the pickup community with what I do. It's a terrible conflation. It's not true. It's not accurate. It's not fair. It's not correct. It's a horrible distortion. What they teach has nothing to do with what I teach. It doesn't have the philosophical groundwork. It's about behavioral-based shit. It has nothing to do with what I do. Please, it's doing a disservice.
Okay. So let me let me say it differently. The word marriage doesn't appear in your book Speed Seduction. Okay,
but look at your own circumstances. You use speed seduction to get married and have a family. It's not just because it's not mentioned doesn't mean that's not the result.
And this is exactly my question. And go back to my question. If this is my objective, get married, having children, having happily ever after marriage, do you think that sometimes what I took from the speed seduction, from your techniques, not the pickup artist community, okay, just from your techniques, will interfere with my willing to be a loyal husband?
No.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. I'll tell you why. You don't really know what fulfills you until you have many experiences. It's to experience what we learn what really fulfills us. That doesn't mean you have to sleep with a lot of women, but you have to have sufficient encounters to say, hey, wait a minute, what I thought makes me happy doesn't. That's done through trial and experimentation. And our values change as we have more experiences. Values help to shape our experiences, and experiences also help to shape our values. The equation runs both ways. God, I'm smart.
Okay, no, because it's very important. Now, I have two last questions with your permission. There something in the Torah or in the wisdom in ancient Jewish wisdom that resonates a lot with what you said. In Genesis, there is a great verse that goes like this: to the woman he said, God said to the woman after the sin, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe, with painful
Your desire
labor.
will be towards your man.
Yeah. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. And my question is just about the words, he will rule over you, because according to ancient Jewish wisdom, there is no symmetry in the relationships between the man and the woman. There is always a tension, and the man seeks to rule, be over it, just like Nietzsche said, to rule over the woman, and the woman seeks to be under the man. And this is like from the initial sin. Do you think...
Forgive me, my friend.
Yes.
Forgive me, my friend. I'm sorry. This is going to offend you. I don't think there is any original sin. I don't think there's
but this is
let me
ancient
just
Jewish
say,
wisdom.
I have to say it. It's nonsense. It's hobbits and rainbows and Pippi Longstocking. Well, I love Pippi. I love Pippi Longstocking. Thank you, all my Swedish friends watching. It's Narnia. It's Lord of the Rings. So it's off the table for me. All this stuff, rule over so and so. It's off. I don't want to rule over anyone. There's a difference between being a leader and being a ruler. A leader, I believe in leadership, but there are times where a woman can be a leader too. I don't buy into any of it.
Okay, so let me quote Nietzsche, for example. Okay,
I don't buy into Nietzsche. I don't buy into Nietzsche either.
Okay, so again, there are no. So what do you think about? Okay, so let me ask you differently. I think that there is an inherent tension between men and women, yeah. And in this era, we seek to make everything equal. And the Canadians just a second, the Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson, who I'm sure you are familiar with, just a second, said that this is not by any chance that the most popular book is 50 Shades of Grey, and 50 Shades of Grey discuss this very point. What is who rule over who in I don't know, in relationships, BDSM style, but
that's more about S&M and BDSM, yes, sexual enjoyment rather than relationships.
So you're not buying into this?
I didn't say that being dominated and even that sort of thing is not a major part of female fantasy. I simply said there's this distinction between the 50 Shades of Grey. It's a specific case. Is about pretty much about domination in the bedroom through and introducing a woman to the unknown. It's about novelty as much as it is about anything else.
Okay.
Primary female fantasy that this untamable beast will be tamed by a woman's love and eventually come around. It's a female fantasy that Fred from childhood, Beauty and the Beast, you name it.
Okay, so my last question is, first, thank you so much for your time.
I loved it. This was
so much eye-opening, and what you said about ultra-Orthodox being so certain that you cannot embrace uncertainty. Therefore, this whole helping process is very, very different.
This is why I find orthodoxy of any kind, Muslim, Christian, atheist, to be revolting. And
many people in the NLP community become very, very orthodox about
That's right.
NLP.
I find them revolting as well, repugnant, repulsive.
So let's say that someone heard our conversation and he wants to explore this domain. He can read your book, Secret of Speed Seduction. He can read your other great book, Subtle Words That Sell.
Someone else is publishing that book. You won't get in touch with me through buying that book. The best way to get in touch with me is go to seduction.com. Seduction.com.
Okay, so we will, this is in the description. But again, if I want to explore the power of language in many contexts, not just in the context of dating, in the context of marriage, in the context of my children, in the context of my students, where should I start? You have your book, Subtle Words That Sell. This is a free ebook, which is a great free ebook, by the way.
The free ebook? It shouldn't be a free ebook. It's
Is it
being
free?
pirated. It's a free ebook. It's being pirated. You get it on Amazon. You can
Yeah.
get the Kindle version, or you can get the hard copy. It should not be I see someone is pirating me.
Okay, so
No.
so it's not a free book, but it's a great book. It's a great book. So again, what else should he read? What else should he read if he want to explore the power of language and the power of words?
That's a really good question. I don't know. Other than my own work, I can't answer that question. What I can say is if you really want to expand your consciousness and learn to live a completely different
Shinzen Wu.
Shinzen Young,
Shinzen
YOUNG. I strongly recommend you reach out to him at shinzen.org. And I also want to recommend you get his, I'm plugging somebody else, but that's how much I believe in his work. The Science of Enlightenment. It's an audio series. And if you want to get in touch with me, email me, ross@seduction.com, and go to my website, seduction.com. And thank you for probably one of the most intelligent, if not the most intelligent interviews I've ever had. It was wonderfully stimulating.
Wow, thank you so much. You have been, I am a big influence on many people in Israel. And since you have been a big influence on me, you have been a big influence on many people in Israel. And again, what you did with NLP was so smart, so viciously smart, that I just can give you a big chapeau. Ross or Pesach Jeffries, thank you so much for coming today. I shouldn't be so happy because Tisha B'Av is coming, but again, this was a one hell of an interview. Thank you so much for your time. It's been great.
No, hey, kol hakavod, Am Yisrael Chai, and you need to put a glossary of all the terms. I'm very serious, Roy, because we exchange a lot of Hebrew and a little Yiddish, and they won't understand.
And some Swedish, because I don't know what pipi is.
You don't know? Oh, Bilby Bat Garrett.
Bilby, yes, Bilby, yes. I know what Bilby is, yes.
In
Bilby.
Hebrew, it's Bilby Bat Garrett, but
yes,
Pippi Longstocking talking was created by Astrid Lindgren.
Yeah, I know. And,
yeah,
a kid named Emil, yes.
Yeah, because
my kid is just like Emil.
Pippi in Hebrew means to piss.
Yeah. Bilby. Pippi is Bilby. Okay. Ross, Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time. This has been one hell of a conversation.
Lahitraot.
Bye.